Good evening again, football fans. Big Al here on this Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025, and welcome to the Week 5 college football television schedule and the announcers for every game this weekend. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. And here we go with the Week 5 college football television schedule. And the announcers for every game. We'll start off with one game on Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific on ESPN. Army at East Carolina with Matt Berry and Tom Luginbill. Then on Friday, we have three games. The first is at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on ESPN. Number 8, Florida State at Virginia. Bob Wischusen and Louis Riddick. At 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on Fox is number 24 TCU at Arizona State with Tim Brando and Devin Gardner. And then at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific on ESPN is Houston at Oregon State with Anish Sharaf and Andre Ware. Now we come to Saturday. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games starting at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. ABC has number 22 Notre Dame at Arkansas with Dave Pasch and Dusty Dvorak. On Fox's Big Noon Saturday, it's number 21 USC at number 23 Illinois with Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt. On ESPN, it's number 16 Georgia Tech at Wake Forest with Mike Monaco and Kirk Morrison. On ESPN2, it's Louisville at Pittsburgh with Roy Philpott and Sam Acho. FS1 has UCF at Kansas State with Connor Onion and Mark Helfrich. On ESPNU, it's South Alabama at North Texas with Matt Schumacher and Dustin Fox. On BTN, it's Rutgers at Minnesota with Guy Haberman and Yogi Roth. On the ACC network, it's Duke at Syracuse with Wes Durham and Steve Addazio. On CBS Sports Network, you have Bowling Green at Ohio with Jordan Kent and Adam Brenneman. And on TNT, it's Cincinnati at Kansas with J.B. Long and Mike Golick Jr. Then at 12:45 p.m. Eastern, 9:45 a.m. Pacific on the SEC Network is Utah State at number 18 Vanderbilt. Taylor Zarzour and Matt Stinchcomb. The next two games are streaming exclusively at ESPN on ESPN Plus. First at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, it's Eastern Michigan at Central Michigan with Doug Sherman and Marcus Ray. And then at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific, it's Georgia Southern at James Madison. And there is no broadcast team announced for that game. All right, we have come to the late afternoon portion of the schedule. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games starting at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific. On ABC, it's number 4 LSU at number 13 Ole Miss with Sean McDonough and Greg McElroy. On the Home Depot Big Ten on CBS, it's number 1 Ohio State at Washington. Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson. On Fox, it's Utah at West Virginia with Jason Benetti and Robert Griffin III. ESPN has Auburn at number 9 Texas A&M with Joe Tessitore and Jesse Palmer. On ESPN2, it's Baylor at Oklahoma State with Lowell Galindo and Aaron Murray. On BTN, it's UCLA at Northwestern with Jeff Levering and Jake Butt. On the ACC network, it's California at Boston College. Chris Cotter and Max Brown with an E on the end if you're typing the captions in. On CBS Sports Network, it's Rice at Navy with Chris Lewis and Randy Cross. Streaming exclusively on Peacock is number 11 Indiana at Iowa with Paul Burmeister and Phil Simms. The last 4 games are all streaming on ESPN+, including Akron at Toledo with Michael Reggie and Ryan Kavanaugh. Connecticut at Buffalo with James Wessling and Craig Halbert. Lindenwood at Miami of Ohio with Sean Kinney and Doc Holliday. And San Diego State at Northern Illinois with Jason Ross Jr. and Tioka Jackson. At 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on FS1, you have Hawaii at Air Force, Eric Collins and Spencer Tillman. On ESPNU, it's Tulane at Tulsa, Chucky Kemp and Darius Walker. At 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on Altitude and Mountain West Conference Digital, it's New Mexico State at New Mexico, and there is no broadcast team announced for this game. Likewise, for Arkansas State and ULM, at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on ESPN+, there is also no broadcast team announced for this game. At 4:15 p.m. Eastern, 1:15 p.m. Pacific on the SEC Network, is number 15 Tennessee at Mississippi State with Dave Neal and Fozzie Whitaker. You have 3 games streaming on ESPN+. The first 2 games are at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, including Liberty at Old Dominion and Middle Tennessee State at Kennesaw State. And then at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific, streaming on ESPN+, is Rhode Island at Western Michigan. There are no broadcast teams announced for those 3 games. Now to the evening portion of the schedule. You have 5 games starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. On ESPN, it's Arizona at number 12, Iowa State, with Dave Fleming and Brock Osweiler. On ESPN2 is Memphis at Florida Atlantic, with Jay Alter and Rocky Boyman. On the CW, it's Virginia Tech at NC State, with Tom Brenneman and Will Blackman. The last 2 games at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific are streaming exclusively on ESPN+. You have Jacksonville State at Southern Miss and Western Kentucky at Missouri State. There is no broadcast teams announced for those 2 games. And then you'll have 6 more games at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. On ABC's Saturday Night Football is one of the SEC's biggest rivalries, as number 17 Alabama visits number 5 Georgia, with Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. On Big Ten Saturday night on NBC, perhaps the game of the week, as number 6 Oregon travels to Happy Valley to face number 3 Penn State, with Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge. On FS1, it's Appalachian State at Boise State, and there is no broadcast team announced for that game. On ESPNU, it's Massachusetts at number 20 Missouri, with Courtney Lyle and Renee Ingogila. On the ACC network, it's San Jose State at Stanford, George Sedano and Rodney McLeod. And on CBS Sports Network, it's Washington State at Colorado State, with Rich Waltz and Robert Turbin. At 7:45 p.m. Eastern, 4:45 p.m. Pacific on the SEC network is Kentucky at South Carolina, Tom Hart, Jordan Rogers, and Cole Kubalik. The next two games are streaming exclusively on ESPN+. At 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, it's Marshall at Louisiana. Then at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, it's Louisiana Tech at Texas El Paso. And there are no broadcast teams announced for those two games. The final two games of the night take place at 10:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Pacific. ESPN has number 25 BYU at Colorado with Mark Jones and Roddy Jones. And on ESPN2, it's Idaho at Montana with Clay Matvick and Chase Daniel. And that's a look at your Week 5 college football television schedule and the announcers for every game this weekend. All right, off day tomorrow, and we'll be back on Thursday with my Week 4 NFL picks, both straight up and against the spread. And I hope to do better than I did this past week. So make sure you join me Thursday for that. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching. And enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.